What's going on, guys? Brian here, and today we are going to be talking about the Bryson situation at the Open. And I'll start by saying I wasn't planning on doing this. There was just some commentary out there that I thought kind of was missing a certain perspective in different ways. And then on the flip side of that, some of the people that were defending the penalty, I think weren't necessarily doing it for the right reasons. And so after seeing a lot of that stuff, I thought I would offer kind of why I feel the way I feel about it and why I think the penalty was justified. And so we're going to start with where it all started, which is the tee shot. So Bryson is going to hit a particularly bad shot here that is going to sail way to the right and kind of stays short of the trees and lands in the penalty area where the tall grass is. And so what I think is important first is that Bryson hit a bad tee shot. Bryson hit a bad tee shot on a golf course that happens to have very, very tall grass. Regardless of why they have the tall grass, it's just part of it. If we were at RBC and he had hit this shot, would have been way in the woods. If we were, somewhere where there was ocean on the right, this would have been on the beach. That's just how golf courses work. They have certain aspects that maybe make them easier than another golf course. Like Bryson gets to come over here and find his golf ball and take a whack at it. And then there are parts that are more penalizing. So rather than this being in pine straw and having to kind of like punch out, but having really clean access to the ball, he has to deal with the nature of tall grass. And I think it's just important to note two things there. Again, he hit a bad tee shot. And two, this is how this golf course defends itself, is that when you hit it in this area, you are not guaranteed a great lie. You're not guaranteed the ability to get the club on the ball. You're not guaranteed the ability to have a clean swing at the ball the way that you would normally swing. You're not guaranteed the ability to do your normal pre-shot routine. If there was a pond right behind where his ball was, he wouldn't necessarily get to step behind that ball. If there was a tree right behind his ball, he wouldn't necessarily be able to again, step behind his ball. Like he doesn't get to come out with a chainsaw and cut a tree down because normally his routine is he gets to step behind it. What he is guaranteed is in the least intrusive way possible to take a stance. And that's what he's afforded. The next thing we're going to look at is a shot that I'm not sure was shown on the broadcast. I think the broadcast showed this guy's perspective and also was kind of jumped forward. So I don't think the broadcast saw him over here doing all of this stuff that he's doing. And so some people that saw it live or maybe didn't see this particular clip may have a different understanding of how it all went down. But we're going to see this, and this won't come out completely clear just because, the nature of the quality of video and how it gets compressed and whatnot. But this grass is perfectly healthy. It's tall. It's where it is supposed to be for the most part. And you're going to see Bryson start to take these kind of small, deliberate steps as he's kind of like working his way behind the ball. And when I say deliberate, it's not that I think he's deliberately cheating, but rather the steps are just deliberate. He has full control over what's happening right now. He could have gone about this a different way. It's not like he tripped and fell. It's not like he jumped over a log and like that's just where he had to land. He could have circled around this way. He could have gone in front of the ball. He could have taken a wider approach around the ball. So he could have gotten to like where he wanted to go, which is behind the ball, and take a look at the like from that perspective towards the hole and figured out his line of play. Like he could have done this differently, and he didn't. So the next piece of this puzzle, after we get over the fact that like he's here because he hit a bad tee shot, the second thing is that grass is getting stamped down right now. That grass right there was straight up and down, and now it's laying to the right and down because of how he decided to walk through here. And again, as a person that plays competitive golf, you have to know the rules. You have to know that you are not entitled to do that. Like, that's not part of what you're entitled to do. And so this is all, again, happening because that's what Bryson did. The next thing we're going to do is jump to we're going to skip way ahead, and we're going to look at him coming out with the rules officials. So now we're here with the rules officials, and I obviously don't know what Bryson's saying in this situation, so I have to kind of guess. But the first thing I would say about this scene is, Bryson goes in, they tell him, this is how I understand it, he goes in to sign a scorecard. They tell him that he's being assessed a 2-stroke penalty for improving his line of play, like where his stroke is going to be. And either they together decided to come out, or the rules officials wanted to explain why they were giving him the penalty, or Bryson wanted to argue his case. I don't know. But they decided to come out here afterwards to take a look at the scene. I do not believe that the RNA is questioning whether or not they're going to give him the penalty. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but my assumption is what they're doing is they're just explaining to him, this is why you're getting the penalty. I don't know that this conversation is trying to explore whether or not there is a penalty. Maybe I'm wrong about that. But we're going to see Bryson do a couple things that I think are interesting. So first, again, who knows what he's saying here? I don't know. It seems like the rules officials are saying, hey, that stuff's laid over. And then like him stepping here where he's like stepping to the front. I don't know if he's saying like, what, do you want me to go around the front side of the ball? Which if that's what he's saying, yeah, maybe. I mean, if that's what it takes, sure. But again, he could have gone all the way around this way. So I don't really know what this argument is. I don't get it. I don't know. But then the next thing that I wanted to really show this angle for, or this scene, is what he's about to do right here. He's saying, or what it appears that he's saying is, look at the angle that I'm going at. My swing's not going in this direction, which I think he's aimed more to the left here than he was when he took his stroke. And we're going to skip ahead here in a second, or skip back, however you want to look at it. And kind of, we're going to show you something that he did when he first walked up to the ball that would somewhat contradict this. But either way, even if this was his intended stance and where he did end up standing, that grass like would still be in this area, and he could, because the swing is circular, still nip that stuff. And then the other thing I would say is, this isn't a tree, which is obvious, I suppose. But, the point being that grass can move with the wind. Once you've stepped it down, it may not, if there was a sudden gust of wind back in this direction, it may not behave in the same way it would have. Meaning, if it were still standing where it was before, that wind could have pushed it into, even along this aim line, could have pushed it into his intended swing path. And so even if this is his argument that he wasn't aimed there, where his backswing would go like directly in that direction, to me, it still doesn't totally matter. So now we're back at this angle from a second ago, where we're going to see something here that I think kind of proves the point more or less. Again, you kind of see him stepping down on that grass. You can see the angle that he's looking. It's not really like off in this direction. He's looking in this direction. And then when you see him turn here in a second to go look at his stance, he's about to do something. He's about to take a practice swing. And I think it illustrates exactly what, you should see here, is that his club, I didn't really catch that exactly what I went to, but like his swing path, because again, the swing is circular, is going off in that direction. So the club head would be here. How did it go from here to there? I mean, it's going off in the direction of where that grass was. So I don't think that argument that he was making with the rules officials really holds up. It seems like that his based off of this practice swing, that's exactly where he intends for the club to be traveling is in this area. And then again, you'll see the downswing here kind of go through that area as well. Granted, on the downswing, it's going to be quite narrow because he's trying to like get down on the ball. But the backswing, I very much think that stuff is in play based off of where he's looking and based off of the practice swing that he just took. Okay, so our final scene here before I give you my final verdict, if that's the right thing to say, and my overall perspective on the matter, which I'll try my best to be brief with, is just the final step in before he hits his approach shot. So important to remember, he's walked through here 3 times now. He's walked behind it. He walked back to the side of the ball. He walked back to the point where he's standing now, and he's about to walk into the ball again. And every time he's stepped on stuff, and he's about to step on it again, pretty harshly. This stuff would be taller. It'd be closer to him, in my opinion, once we see his final setup. And knowing that, the swing is rotational, that, catching something that's this tall, even if it is kind of more to his side, is perfectly reasonable. And again, who knows if in a different circumstance or something like that, wind could have pushed that tall grass right in his way, and more obviously would have impacted his strike or the decision he made. And then we see his practice swings that he's about to make. He's touching stuff that's in the direction of where that tall stuff would have been. My verdict on the situation is, Bryson hit the tee shot. He chose to step around the way he chose to step around. He could have, in an effort to make sure that he wasn't improving his area where his swing is going to be, he could have walked around in a different way. He could have avoided doing what he did, and unfortunately he didn't. I don't care if he did it intentionally, unintentionally. I just don't care. It is the way it is, and he did what he did, and I think it's in violation of the rule. And so that's my perspective on the actual ruling itself. We don't know what would have happened, whether that grass might have caught his club and caused him to hit it worse. Maybe it even would have helped him out in some way. Who knows? Maybe he could have made a better score if he hadn't stepped that stuff down. Maybe he would have been uncomfortable with whether or not the club was going to touch that grass, and he would have aimed more to the left. Who knows? We have no idea. So I wish he would have done it that way, but he didn't do it that way. And so now, in my opinion, the penalty is the correct call. And then my overall perspective on this, and why I really wanted to speak about this, is because it matters to me in a way that has nothing to do with this actual tournament. And I'll give you a little anecdote here. One of the things that I always end up doing with most of my junior golfers, and then a decent amount of my adult golfers that are getting into competition later, is almost without fail, I have this conversation about upholding the rules. And one example of that is with my really young golfers. They'll be playing with someone that is not being totally honest about their score. So they know the player has made a double or a triple. They ask the player what score they made, and they'll say something like bogey. And they just don't like being confrontational. And they come to me and they tell me the situation. This guy kept lying about his score. This girl kept lying about her score. And I'm like, well, did you say anything? And they kind of hang their head no. And again, it makes total sense. They don't want to be confrontational. It's awkward. It doesn't feel great. But the perspective that I give them is this: you're not being mean to that player. One, they could do that later on in life thinking they can get away with it, and someone else holds them accountable, and they end up losing a valuable opportunity because no one got them sooner. Two, you're not being mean to the player. What you're really doing is you're being kind and defending every other player in the event. And I have this conversation again with my adult players when they notice something where someone is going to take a drop farther up than they should. or whatever the situation is, they don't want to be confrontational either. And again, you're not being mean to that player. Again, you could be helping them by catching a bad habit before it's more consequential to them. I had to have that conversation with a dad one time. I was at a junior event, and I like commented to his son about something, and the dad got mad at me. And what I told him was like, I'm not trying to be mean to your kid. It's just, I know he's going to go on and he's going to play in bigger events, and like, he just needs to know so he doesn't break that rule in a moment that really matters to him. But again, the other side of it is, it's also in defense of every other player. It's not mean to that person. It's not me by saying that I think Bryson deserved the 2-stroke penalty. It's not me being mean to Bryson. I just believe, one, in the integrity of the sport. I love golf, but even more important than that is I just understand there are guys and girls out there that know the rules, and they try everything they can to not run afoul of the rules, not like they're trying their absolute hardest not to break the rules, and doing so, will cost themselves strokes. And then, something that doesn't have to be theorized about, there are very famous stories out there of golfers that have, cost themselves, whether it's money or, a higher finishing place or whatever, making the cut, because they have very selflessly and very honestly called rules, they've called penalties on themselves. And I just think that's what the game should be. I believe that people that do that deserve the utmost respect. Like, one, just like stepping foot into a golf tournament. Two, all the practice and work that goes in. I just think that should be honored. I think we should honor the fact that there are so many people out there that do things the right way. And if you can point to a situation where there's sand flying in someone's backswing, or someone else kind of stepped in improperly and kind of trampled down some grass, kind of exposed the back of the ball when they shouldn't have, I don't think that's an excuse as to why we shouldn't hold other people accountable. I think that's an example of where whoever it is, whether it's the PGA Tour or the USGA or whoever it is, whoever's officiating, or just the player themselves, where we as a sport, that person, whoever, again, just needs to do better. It needs to look at it from the perspective of, like, yes, it is unfortunate. It's again not designed to be punitive. It's not designed to be mean. It's just, there are people out there that are doing things the right way, and they deserve to have the score that they shoot be defended, and not allow other people to shoot a score that they really shouldn't have shot.